Thank you so much for choosing Coming Out Stories. We're brought to you by What Goes On Media, and I'm your host, Emma Goswell. We'd love it if you subscribe so you never miss an episode. Hey, and don't forget to follow us on all the socials as well. We are at Come Out Stories on X, previously Twitter, and we're Coming Out Stories Pod on Instagram. It's hard to believe, but this is our last episode of 2023, and you're about to hear from a real pioneer, a woman who came out back in the 1970s, and then through all of her campaigning and hard work, paved the way for so many other women, and especially other lesbian mothers, to live their lives the way they wanted. It's time to meet Anne.
I always had a friend. I always fell in love with the sixth formers, because they were like all big, strong women, and I was like this little 11-year-old. But not to do anything about it or even identify. But once I got to 15, 16, I was going out with lads, so.
So you knew from a very young age, well, you mentioned being 11 there and really knowing that you were attracted to women.
Well, but no, because it was a crush. And you were allowed to have crushes when you went to an all-girls school, you were allowed to have crushes on people.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't a bad thing to do, to have a crush on an older girl, you know what I mean? So,
and where in the world and what sort of decade are we talking when you were at school?
In the 60s. Well, no, the late 50s, early 60s at school. That was in Liverpool. I was born and brought up in Liverpool. But, of course, there wasn't any out person anywhere that you could say, oh, gosh, she's like that.
Well, that's it. I mean, did anyone know any gay people in the 50s or 60s?
I don't think so. No, I don't. Well, if they did, it was that puff down the road. Do you know what I mean? That's how it might be described.
Really?
Or that puff on the bus or something. It would be like that. It wouldn't be any meaningful discussion about anything.
Oh, no. So you knew that gay people existed, but it was they were always referred to in quite a derogatory way.
Yeah, and usually men. Yeah. They would be talking about men usually, yeah. So, no, there was nothing for women, really, apart from the fact that there were some strong women around.
But did you even know the word lesbian when you were growing up?
I don't think I did, no. I don't remember knowing about it. The first time I ever knew anybody who actually said they were a lesbian was when I went to work in London.
Oh, well, do you have to go to that London to meet lesbians?
When I was like 16, 17, I left Liverpool and went to work in London in a big department store on Oxford Road.
Oh, nice.
Called Bourne and Hollingsworth, and they had accommodation on Gower Street, which is behind Tottenham Court Road.
And this was in the swinging 60s in London?
It was. So before that I had thought about being a nun. But like then,
why?
Just because I was taught by nuns. I think a lot of people do. I went through that phase where I was very holy and went to church a lot, and sort of was in the Legion of Mary and things like that, and
then you went to swinging 60s London and met lesbians.
And then I went to London, and found like sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Amen to that.
So that hit that on the head. But so that was the first time I'd ever met anybody who said, like, they may not even have said I'm a lesbian. They might have just said I'm gay.
And did the penny click for you? Did you think, oh, that's what I am?
No, not really, because I lived in Soho. Do you know what I mean? That's where it is. The part of Oxford Street is really Soho. So
you were in Gay Central.
So it was hippie central, or
was it?
I don't know, alternative central you might call it, rather, because there were all sorts of people there, not just gay people, but
were there gay bars in Soho in the 60s then?
No. Well, of course we couldn't drink till we were 21.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah,
you
couldn't go in a pub till you were 21. Oh. All the places that I went to, none of them sold alcohol.
Well, the swinging 60s don't sound that swinging to me.
No, well, it was. This is the whole thing about it. You see, of course, there was the other part of it, the sex, drugs and rock and roll, you know what I mean? But, no, there were coffee bars. There was a coffee bar in Old Compton Street called the Two Eyes, which was where Cliff Richard had been discovered and Tommy Steele, sort of years before, the late 50s. And then there was another one called the Macabre, where the tables were coffin-shaped. And it was all dark and, and then there was the Two Eyes. And, yes, I did drink, but I had to pretend I was 21.
Yeah.
So I had to try and remember what my birthday was supposed to be. That was when I went out with another friend who was older, slightly older. And so she'd put my hair up in a French roll, so to make me look older.
Brilliant. And all this time, were you sort of not fully aware of your sexuality? Because I assume you were then dating guys, were you? Dating men?
Well, not really. You couldn't call it dating, really. It was like, different ones all the time. We went round in groups.
But you had boyfriends, you didn't have girlfriends?
No, I didn't have girlfriends, no. But, I did have close relationships with a few girls. Then I went from the swing in London and the sex, drugs and rock and roll into the army. So it was like
the opposite, yeah.
Totally different culture. And the funny thing is, that's where I met my husband, my ex-husband, I was friends with all the lesbians.
I was going to say there must have been quite a few lesbians in the army.
But of course, there were also quite a few got turfed out as well.
Because of course it would have been
it was
way before they allowed gays in the UK military.
Totally. So there was a couple of times where, once in Guildford, which is where you go for your sort of basic training, we got up one morning and 2 girls were on the way home, and then again at Catterick.
Because they'd been caught having a relationship?
Yeah.
And did you ever speak to them about it? Did you ever get a chance to?
Yeah, because, like I say, I was friends with a lot of them. And every time they had an argument, I'd be talking to them, and said, oh, she said this and she said that,
But they must have been devastated, they lost their careers over it. I know.
But again, that's how it was. That was the way it was at the time. So I ended up pregnant and getting married. So that was that,
Because you obviously knew other lesbians and knew that you were attracted to women, but did you just feel the societal pressure to go?
No, I'm not sure why. Yeah, possibly unconsciously pressurised, because I got married in the January in 1966 and had my eldest daughter in May of that year. And so that was not long enough, to have been married, to have a baby, as it were. But the attitudes were just changing. Because when I went into hospital to have Tracy, there were 3 women there who weren't married.
Okay.
But were having babies.
Yeah, because it was a big thing, wasn't it? And up until the 60s.
So attitudes then were just changing. They were getting more mellow about things, but still not to the extent of people walking around saying, I'm gay. Right. We had a gay lad live next door to us when I was still living at home. And, with Tony next door to us was gay.
And how did everyone in Liverpool in the 60s react to Tony?
That puff who lives in Speak, or the house where we lived. There was also a gay lad at school as well.
And did he get bullied?
I've no idea. He was theatrical, so possibly not, because he was always in all the plays and things that they did. Sometimes that's a way of people not getting bullied,
or staying popular.
Yeah.
So you went down the straight route, really. You got married and you had a family. How many kids?
Well, I've had 3. One, my son died at 6 weeks, but I've got 2 daughters, Tracy and Rachel. But I think, like I said, the attitudes were slightly changing when I had Tracy. And if I'd had known before I had Tracy that attitudes were going to change, I probably wouldn't have got married. We were already arguing and things, so I think we would have ended up splitting up and I wouldn't have got married. But I did, and I ended up being married for 6 years, and then fell apart and I left and came back. In the meantime, my mum and dad had moved to Manchester from Liverpool because of my dad's work. And so I came back to Manchester.
With your 2 kids?
With the 2 kids.
And at this time, were you thinking, well, I'm actually gay? Why don't I look for a woman or whatnot?
No.
Were you not?
No, I was thinking just, I'm never going to get married again.
Yeah, fair enough.
So, and I was too busy with the kids. I wasn't interested. I didn't date or anything. I wasn't interested in men. There was a woman that I really, really liked. And, we became friends, but that's as far as it went. I was doing various things. I went to an adult education centre and did some couple of GCEs, and then I went to Wythenshawe College as a mature student, and there were a few other slightly older people, and one of our sociology teachers was a gay man who was openly gay, and he was sort of quite camp, or he looked. That's how he came across, the way he came rushing in, and there was like, but obviously, like I say, he was one of our sociology teachers, and there was a few of us, a couple of older people who just clicked with him. Really, it was really nice, and he came to my house for a meal. I invited him for a meal, and we got talking, and I just came out to him. It was the first time I'd ever told anybody, put it that way, that, I'd had these feelings and one thing and another.
And you hadn't actually done anything about it? You hadn't
No.
kissed a woman at this stage?
No.
You had just got feelings?
Yeah.
And the first person you came out to was your tutor? That's quite unusual. That's great.
Because, like I say, he was really nice. But unfortunately, he died of mesothelioma. His name was John Shires anyway, and he was, as I say, my sociology tutor, but became a really good friend.
I guess it's a good bet, isn't it, to come out to someone else who is gay, because you know you're going to get a good response.
Yeah, well,
I guess that was the safety net.
Yeah, they understand. And I could sort of apply the same back to him, that I could understand him, so...
What did he say?
So basically you need to get involved with things, and I'll sort it out. So, I mean, he wouldn't rest then, there was no going back into the shell or...
What did he mean by you need to get involved with things?
There was no gay centre or no centre in essence for gay people at that time. There were 2 offices. There was an office for gay switchboard, which was to tell people about pubs and clubs and things and any things that were going on. And then there was Friend, which was a counselling service for gay people. And they had an office each in this building. That was it.
So what year was this, and how old were you when you came out then?
76, 77.
Okay.
So I would have been mid-20s, late 20s.
But so there weren't any gay bars in Manchester at that time?
Oh, yes, there were bars, that's what I say. So the gay switchboard was the place that gay people could ring up and they would be told about Napoleon's, which obviously was a gay bar, and then other gay places, different. I mean, a lot of them have changed now, of course.
Well, it certainly wasn't the bustling Canal Street it is today, is it? Or even was by the 90s?
There was 2 or 3. There was the Union, which was full of what were known as drag queens. And there was the Rembrandt. I think the Rembrandt was there then. There was Napoleon's. There was the Thompson's Arms. So there were, and then as I got involved, I found out there was a disco on a Friday night at Manchester Poly. So if you rang up Friend and said, I think I'm a lesbian, someone would arrange to meet you somewhere, if you wanted, of course, and to tell you about, like, well, there's a women's meeting, on the 3rd Friday of every month or something. That was it. Yeah. That sort of thing.
So he was trying to get you involved politically
yes,
rather than just let's go out to gay bars together. He wanted you to get involved.
But the other thing was, with some of the gay bars, you couldn't go in unless you were accompanied by a man, because they were mainly male bars. So a woman just couldn't turn up on her own and go in. So
and was it all secret handshakes and secret knocks on doors?
Yeah. For women, there was a place in Ashton. So sometimes 3 or 4 women would get in a car and go up to Ashton, and possibly after the poly disco on a Friday. But like I say, there was nothing. I mean, people now, there is just all sorts of things, aren't there, for them?
Yeah, well, I remember even in the 90s going out to gay clubs, that it was always mainly men, and there weren't that many lesbian scenes or clubs, but it must have been even more pronounced then. So were there many lesbians that you could sort of meet or have potential relationships with in the 70s?
Well, no, because, apart from like the women's group that would meet, sort of every so often. And like I say, these the 2 offices were in a building called Waterloo Place. It's near the university. So there were various different enterprises in there, and the 2 offices were right at the top. But in the basement was an alternative record shop. And then they gave up and moved somewhere. So, and we took over the basement, which was the first time we'd actually had a place.
And when you say we, what organisation was this?
Well, it was just the Gay Centre. I mean, it wasn't any organisation as such then. There was Gay Switchboard, which was staffed by men 6 days a week, and Tuesday night was women's night. And then Friend, so that was the counselling arm. But when we got this funding and we'd turned the basement into some sort of place that you could actually use. So we still had Gay Switchboard there, and we still had Friend, but we also sort of branched off and had another phone line called Lesbian Link. But because we had this room, it meant we could say to women, come down on a Tuesday night or whatever, and meet other women. So it started from there, really.
And so you basically helped start a lesbian centre?
Yeah. Well,
that must have been a good way to meet women as well.
Yeah, well, it was. That's where I met somebody, and we became, a partnership. But the thing about it was, though, that we helped so many women. We were able to point them in the direction of discos and things that they could go to, and also give them support. Like one time there were 2 married women who were friends and then had fallen for each other. So they both were married, both had kids. They were in
complicated lives, isn't it?
A bit of a state, to say the least, yeah. We had, a room where we could have women's meetings. We started a lesbian mothers group.
Did you?
Yeah, we used to have a Christmas party every year for them and for the kids, and because there were all sorts of reasons why women couldn't come out. They certainly couldn't come out if they had kids, because they were in danger of having the kids taken off them, or they may have been religious. All different sorts of reasons. Their jobs, they were teachers possibly, or nurses.
Did you feel the threat that you might have your kids taken off you then?
Well, yeah, obviously, but I also just felt it was right from the minute I came out, almost. I came out, if you see what I mean.
You mean you never went back in? You were out to everybody?
We used to have badges, let's face it, we used to wear badges. And I used to have one which said, yes, I'm homosexual too. Because that was the thing that you had to explain to people, that the homosexual didn't only apply to men.
Right.
Because it wasn't from the Latin word, it was from the Greek word meaning the same, rather than male. So I don't know how many times I went through that. And women need men like fish need bikes. And just all those. But a friend of mine that I had, we'd been really close, and I'd looked after her children. She'd gone back into nursing. She had 3 children under 4. So I used to go across to her house a lot, And sometimes I babysat and looked after them while she got a nap because she'd been on nights. And got to know her really well and her husband. And then they moved house not far, just round the corner. But I was helping them move in. And I'd come straight from college. And I had my coat on. And I had the badge on.
Oh, yeah.
And that was the first time Lindsay had seen it. And he'd seen it while I was carrying a wardrobe up the stairs with him. So I went home to get the kids the tea and that, and went to see her the next day and wasn't allowed in.
What?
She was told she couldn't be friends with me anymore.
By her husband? And she didn't want to be friends with you anymore? No,
well, that's the thing that was the bitterest thing, really, was the fact that she wouldn't stand up to him. And she was a strong woman, you know, or she appeared to be a strong woman, you know. But, so that hurt. It hurt a lot. So I was out, you know, right from the start, really. I told my family. I told my sister first.
Oh, how did that go?
She was fine. She was the youngest one. She was the youngest of the family, and she came to babysit for me while I went to a women's group. I mean, my two brothers were they weren't nasty or anything, but like taking the piss out of me, but not in a nasty way, just, you know. So my family were fine. Did
you sit down and chat to your parents about it? How did that go?
Yeah, well, they just accepted it. If they didn't accept it, they didn't say anything. You know.
And that's quite a big deal in the 70s. You know, there weren't that many
I was going to, like I'd take the kids to my mum and dad lived in Burnage, and I'd take them on a Friday night. You know, we'd go to stay for the weekend, but then I'd go off and go to the disco at the Poly. You know, and my mum would put the kids to bed and that. So. They were only supportive. I can't say anything else really about them. They were so. I had a slightly different outcome than a lot of women did. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, I'm sure a lot of women got rejected by their families, did they?
Yes, lots. I mean, some were thrown out. Some were, you know, never spoken to again.
And I guess in those days, in the 70s and 80s, it would have been a lot more common for women to have gone down that route, to have gone down the getting married, having kids, and then coming out later. So I guess there was quite a lot of women in that situation who had kids.
And some of the stories were horrendous. They were really horrendous.
Loads of women were having their kids taken off them and being told they were unfit mothers because they were lesbians.
I know. Yeah, that's why I felt I needed to be out there. But at times I did feel like the only lesbian mother in the north of England, you know, because anybody wanted anything to say, oh, Anne Algar will do it. So, you know. So I did. I was on all sorts of different television programmes. Do you remember Lord Winstanley? You probably won't remember him. He had this thing. He had a programme on Granada. And but I was on with him twice. And we did a thing with Hazel O'Connor.
Did you?
On Granada as well, which was like really weird. He said, oh, it's her.
So you were like the most out and proud lesbian in the Northwest, probably, in the 60s, 70s and 80s.
Yeah, like I say, I'd been on the phone, you know, on the phone line for since it began, and ran the women's groups. And then just it really in the mid-80s, I ran out of steam. So that
there's only so long you can keep going for, I guess, in terms of being politically active like that.
Well, I mean, we did lots of things. We started the Equal Opportunities unit in the town hall because there hadn't been anything, and so I was involved in the Labour Party Working Party for lesbians and gays or whatever, you know, equal opportunities. But yes, I was on the interviewing panel, so we appointed the first lesbian worker, the first disabled persons worker, the first gay men's worker,
The proud stuff that you've been involved in then.
Yeah, it was, and do you know, it was fun. We picketed everywhere. We picketed the Daily Express building and Ancoats.
Why?
We stormed it because they wouldn't report on, gay things, or they reported negatively on gay things. And W.H. Smith wouldn't sell gay news, so...
You picketed them?
Well, we'd go and buy the gay news or take a gay news in with the shopping and put gay news in the basket, and then they'd say, we picketed the Manchester show in Plattfields.
Why?
Because they wouldn't let us have a stall. So we picketed that. So it was fun. We picketed James Anderton. Do you remember? You won't know James Anderton either, will you?
I've heard of him, the police chief who said that gay men were swirling in the cesspit of their own making.
Oh, I know, yeah. Gosh, and a policeman hiding in toilets, it was ridiculous. It really was ridiculous.
There was a lot to protest against, wasn't there?
Yeah.
There was no rights.
They had a big meeting in the Free Trade Hall, and so a whole crowd of us managed to get in, and we put a banner over the balcony like the women's suffrage movement had done back in the day, so we put this banner. And needless to say, we got ejected out of there.
Did you ever get arrested?
No. But I mean, it was fun as well. Do you know what I'm saying? It wasn't like, we've got.
It was serious stuff that you were doing.
It was, but it was fun as well, and gradually things changed. Obviously, So.
And you went on to meet your life partner.
Yes, that was in 87, I think it was, 87. She was working in the laundry at Withington Hospital. They took on an evening shift at the laundry. And the person I was with at the time, we needed some extra money. I was at the Poly doing my degree. And so I went to work at the laundry. Loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Wow. Well, and you fell in love.
And then met Joyce, So, and unfortunately for the other relationship, it wasn't a good thing.
And how long have you been with Joyce now then?
36 years.
Wow.
36 years.
And are you married?
No.
You haven't gone down that route, no.
No. We're quite happy as we are as partners. We've got, our families, Joyce's family weren't cooperative or whatever for the first 20 years, but...
Oh, just the first 20? Right, blimey. So what, did they not speak to her?
Yeah, they spoke to her, but we never got invited to anything. And my family were totally different, they totally accepted Joyce. And there was one particular day, we were at my mum and dad's, and Joyce was saying something to my dad, and he said, I don't know, you'll have to ask your mother. Meaning my mother.
Oh.
Do you know what I mean? And I just thought, yes, that's how it is. They just totally accepted her right from the very beginning.
And now you two are head of a ginormous family. So just list how many kids and grandkids and great-grandkids and great-grandkids.
Well, we've got 5 children between us, and we've got 13 grandchildren, 22, nearly 23 great-grandchildren, and 1 great-great-grandson. So our eldest great-grandson is the father of our great-great-grandson.
It's just remarkable. Such a big family. And you buy them all Christmas presents.
Yeah. So
I don't know how you do it.
But it's and they're all, I mean, our eldest daughter, Joyce's daughter. Joyce has got a daughter and 2 sons. I've got 2 daughters. And right from the very beginning, she was, this is me 2 mums. And she'd be in the bingo and, when we get talking and that, and she'd say, oh, yeah, my mum's a lesbian. Just like right from the very beginning. So, yeah.
And they all completely accept you, don't they? They all love you.
Yeah.
But that's great.
To Joyce's side, she's Nana and I'm Nana Ann.
Right.
To my side, I'm Nanny and she's Nanny Joyce.
Right.
And then with the grandkids as well, to at my side, I'm Grandma and she's Grandma Joyce. Well, I haven't got very many because they're nearly all on Joyce's side. And to them, she's Grandma and I'm Grandma Ann. So, it just works out.
But it's so great to me because you've got the equivalent of like more than 2 football teams of young people growing up in Manchester who've got lesbian grannies.
Yes.
Who just, that is normal to them.
And they're mostly in their 30s now, the grandkids. So our youngest grandson's 21. So they're not bothered about talking about it either to other people. So it does spread out from tiny seeds, huge oak trees grow sort of thing. So
you never regret being out from the get-go?
Gosh, no.
And did you ever come out to your ex-husband, or do you not really speak anymore?
I did come out to him years and years and years ago. I mean, I'm not even sure whether he's alive now, but what was it he said? He said something like, "Oh, well, I always was the bastard to you," or something. And I said, "It's got nothing to do with you at all, like." It was like because of him, I'd become a lesbian. Do you know, I said, it's got nothing to do with you at all. I always was, I just didn't know it.
It's full of his own self-importance then.
Yeah, so...
But no regrets in terms of getting involved and getting married because you got your family, you got your kids.
Oh, yes, yeah. Oh, gosh, yeah. But like I say, I just wish I'd known beforehand that attitudes were slightly changing and I could be a single mum. But I didn't. I didn't know.
Can you believe how much things have changed since the 60s when you went to London? And, we can have the chance to get married now if we want,
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm all for it for those that want it, definitely. I mean, we have got another gay couple in the family, a male couple. So,
well, you'd hope so. Out that many people in your family, don't there be a few more gays? And you never know, some of the great-great-grandchildren could turn out to be gay as well, and then they've got an amazing role model, haven't they, to talk to?
Yeah, definitely.
Say one of your great-grandchildren or great-great-grandchildren did come out to you, what would be your advice to them?
Just be yourself and, work through it. You can't not be yourself because it causes so much hassle. I mean, we had friends, these 2 women, and they were together. The one family had sort of ostracised her because of what she was. And the other one worked with the courts in capacity with young people. And so they kept their relationship secret in fact, one of them has died and the other one basically has just come out.
Wow. So they kept their sexuality secret for how many years then? Decades?
Decades. Yeah. Well, all the time the one was working with the courts.
And how did that affect them, do you think?
I don't think it affected them too badly in one sense, but one of them ended up being very closeted at home sort of thing and only came to life, as it were, when the groups were meeting and that. And they had a wonderful relationship. Like I say, I think they were 47 years they were together.
47 years together and not out. I think that's hard work.
Yeah. And yet they were out within the group.
Yeah.
They were leaders. They were strong women, strong leaders.
So how much happier do you think you are since you've come out?
Gosh, tons happier, yeah, because you just are yourself and if people don't like it, they can lump it. If they don't like you, then, that's their problem, not your problem. I feel good because I feel like I helped a lot of women as well. Just being on the end of the phone for some women and meeting other women, and bringing them into the group and then they'd meet someone and they might pair off. And so, yeah, I feel like I've helped a lot of women.
You have. You're the lesbian Pied Piper of Manchester. Incredible. Anne Algar there. And as a fellow lesbian mum, I do feel like I owe a big thank you to Anne for coming out back in the day and for getting involved politically and making things easier for other lesbians. I know it can't have been easy. Oh, and do spare a thought for all of those Christmas presents you would have had to wrap and buy. 5 kids, 13 grandchildren and 23 great-grandchildren, not to mention the great-great-grandson. A quick calculation tells me that is 42 presents. Wow, should better start saving for next year. Talking of which, if you're listening just after this is released, 2023 is nearly done and dusted. So listen, I wish you and your family, blood or chosen family, a very happy and healthy new year. We will be back, of course, in 2024, so don't go anywhere, and do subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. Next time, you'll meet Gary, who knew when he was a child that he was gay, but suppressed his sexuality for 4 decades and, get this, through 3 marriages with women.
I bought my wife a year supply of Playgirl magazine. I thought it would be really funny for Christmas. And I remember spending a little bit more time than I should flicking through those pages. And that was in my 30s.